Hi everyone, my name is James Feeney. Welcome to or back to my channel. I am hopping on again and I'm not sure which order I'm going to upload these videos in, but I'll probably just make this one the second one because I'm recording it right after my review of the Fox Universe Tarot. In conjunction with that, I had the idea or wanted to, in the same time frame, talk about tough love where tarot is concerned and when it's needed, when it's not, sort of finding that balance and how too much tough love can be harmful and detract, I say, from the experience, and when not enough can do the same. This was kind of spurred on by actually the use of the Fox Universe Tarot. For me, using it and doing readings and getting to the heart of some matters where I'm concerned, it illuminated to me and that I was maybe being too tough on myself, or in recent weeks, I should say, I have been a bit too hard on myself, and the way that I was using tarot for myself, at least, was reflecting that. And I think that just having a conscientiousness in using tarot and how we're using it is vital. And I think that finding a balance in how we speak to ourselves through the tarot, or read for ourselves like through the tarot, is also really important. I mean, a lot of tarot books that you might read, that you probably will read, when they talk about reading for yourself and sort of deconstructing the idea of seeing yourself as this objective reader and that you are reading for a third party, in an attempt to, I guess, escape the ego and the conscious mindset that might bias any sort of reading, and perfecting that. When we're reading for ourselves, that's a lot of what the struggle is. If you face that, I think personally that reading for myself, I think is more difficult than reading for a client or someone I don't know, just because I do have to overcome the hurdle of my own ego where I am concerned, and my own biases and my own conscious thoughts on the matters that I'm confronting. So there's a lot there, and I think that we're all human, whether you have been reading for a year or 20. I think we all can sometimes fall victim to having biased readings, or just letting our mood and the place that we are in life affect the way that we read for ourselves, and that can be a negative influence on ourselves as readers or on our own readings. So I would say that breaking down that tough love into the questions, like our inquiries, like how we are phrasing these questions that we are asking ourselves at a given moment. If you're somebody who, I know sometimes a lot of people use spreads. Sometimes people are more or less not so much into spreads and just lay the cards down. But those spread positions and what they are assigned to, or even if it's not a spread, what you're choosing to pull the card on with this umbrella of like a larger reading going, how we're interpreting the cards, being conscientious of the mood and the way that we're feeling entering the reading as a reader, and understanding that we wouldn't maybe want to read for a client coming from this headspace, but yet we're accepting to read for ourselves in a headspace that we wouldn't for others. So I guess ticking boxes of a checklist, and I would say have like a checklist, say, that you mentally are already probably pretty conscious of when you would maybe read for another, even if you don't actually read for other people. When it came to reading them, give yourself those high standards that you would set for somebody that you are charging or who is paying you, because you know that those standards, for the most part, most of us are probably going to have high standards for a reading like that, and there's no reason that we shouldn't have those high standards for ourselves and those guidelines to keep ourselves in a good place that is very neutral. I think that there's also the element of the types of decks and cards that we're using. So for example, I just did the review on the Fox Tarot, And I think that this one is really great for deconstructing all sorts of issues. I think that this one's also, like, it's very neutral. It's meant to sort of get to the heart of things in personal matters. And it's really what made me realize that I was being a lot harder on myself than I probably should have been. I was maybe asking questions from a place of like yearning and negativity, and not negativity, but almost from like a darker place. Like I was asking, what can I do to change? What's wrong? How do I fix this? What's the next step? Which in reality, I guess, aren't necessarily inherently negative, but when you're constantly asking questions as if something is wrong, as opposed to maybe interjecting and asking what's right, what are my strengths, what do I need to do to be the best version of myself, not what's wrong. So, having a balance of the sorts of questions and the way that we're asking questions is a good indicator of the types of readings we're doing for ourselves and how tough we might be on ourselves versus if we aren't tough enough. Personally, I mostly fall into the category of being a little bit too tough on myself where readings are concerned, and the sorts of topics that I delve into. So I can speak more so from that realm, but I do know, and I'm sure I have at some points fallen into maybe not being tough enough, asking really lighthearted, cute and nice questions that aren't of much consequence, that don't have a lot of depth there, or that are really lined up to give me an answer that's not going to benefit me or push me in any way. And I think that that's equally unhelpful and harmful, just kind of sitting there, skimming along the surface in a lighthearted manner. And I mean, if that's what you want from tarot, that's awesome. But if you're using it for, I'd say, self-care and as like a tool of guidance and to make decisions and to empower yourself, then that is not going to get you very far for very long. Likewise, being too tough on yourself might just exacerbate any feelings of negativity or burnout, or kind of really play at that self-esteem and not allow it to flourish, or to kind of keep you down. Beating yourself up when you're down, for example, is, I guess, something that's very possible to come out of being a little bit too hard on yourself. And of the same vein, I guess I wanted to mention, I have some decks here that I think are good for highlighting certain things. So someone who's too hard on themselves might, a way to kind of push yourself out of that would be maybe to use a deck that is a little bit more innately positive in its artwork or meanings. And this can be tarot or oracle. I have an oracle deck here that I would kind of consider more of an affirmation deck. And I've really been liking it. I haven't had it for very long. It was a birthday present from some friends, and I don't have any decks like this, and it kind of made me realize that, like, why do you just have these not harsh decks, but you go for things that are, like, you don't have anything that's kind of like nice and sweet. And this is the Moon deck, Oracle cards and guidebook. I'm not sure where this is from. I'll try to link it below. But it's, I think, 44 cards, and it is a lot more like an affirmation deck. I would say that this one is like more sacred, divine, feminine, but all of the cards are empowering. And in the book, you have it's a chunky little guidebook that goes in the box. You have the description, or like the deeper meaning, and then you have a ritual to go along with it. So here, let's pull one. Okay. Let's see. I am ready. Thank you. And that is card 13. So let's see what we get. It's about expansion. I'll read the ritual because that's what's really novel about this deck. One of the most important ritual, clear plus activate your doorway. One of the most important parts of your home is your front door. Make your entrance pleasant, inviting, clean, and clear, so good vibes and prosperous opportunities flow in and out with ease. Imagine this energy is like flowing water. You want all obstacles out of its way. Apply these tips and pay attention to how both the inside and outside doorway look and feel. Look into feng shui to dig deeper. Smudge the entrance and begin when you begin and end this ritual. Make sure your entrance is well lit. Clear obstacles and debris that block your doorway. Clean your doorknob, the bell, the address, the surrounding grounds. Be sure to fix anything that's broken. Add non-obtrusive decorations that feel positive, such as a nice doormat, flowers, stones, protective or good luck symbols above the door, and hang a bell inside the door to clear negative energy. Feel the shift and be ready to receive. So all of these are sort of just actions that are very symbolic and gearing you up to like feel better about a certain aspect of life. Some are like having to do with rest and sleep, and they tell you sort of ways to facilitate that. So it's really about like taking care of yourself and having these sort of rituals. Some are more spell-like actually, but they're all a little bit more spiritual in nature. These rituals that facilitate a positive shift in a certain way through like a more mundane action that is meant to get you thinking and feeling a little bit in a broader scheme. Things like that. So when you're being too hard on yourself, maybe turning to something like that, or rephrasing the questions that you're asking the tarot and considering why it is that you're being so hard on yourself. That's a big one. So you can even make those part of the questions that you are asking. And just being aware of your ego's influence and your conscious influence over the readings, and how that might be skewing the results that you're getting, and what that can turn into. And of course, skewing or allowing the ego to sort of infiltrate a reading can either render it essentially useless, it can make it a little bit of a negative, not negative, but like an unhelpful reading that really doesn't offer much, or can guide you down a path that isn't in your best interest. So all of that, and then if you're being too easy on yourself, maybe asking the harder questions, asking how you can challenge yourself, asking like what can be done to be better. So just flipping it. I would say the biggest part is is that awareness, that light bulb that goes off that tells you that you're doing this. And that's a big part of it. So maybe even just listening to this video gets you thinking about your own tarot practice. And if that's all that happens in this one day or little time, then that's still really great. You're on the right path. And I think that the answers of sort of balancing the tough love versus the soft and cuddle will vary. And there are times when both are necessary. I mean, when you're going through a really tough time, you don't want to feel like you've been slapped by a reading, and you want that sort of comfort. And when you are in a really good place, when you're in like a really good place, or like you're in a very not good place, but complacency, and you feel like you're not getting anywhere and you're stagnant and you're just telling yourself what you want to hear, you sometimes need the slap. So everyone's different, and we're gonna all experience times when we need both. I would say by and large, a nice balanced reading is probably what is going to actually help. A balanced reading is going to give you the slap when you need it, and it's going to give you the hug when you need it. So we should strive for those. And there's a lot more to it than just the conscious mind and like the ego and trying to remove ourselves and remain neutral, and setting these standards for the reading and how we come into it and the proceedings within. I had some decks that I thought might be a little bit more confronting, or not hard edge, but like the tough love. One is and I guess I'll say like a trigger warning for anybody who doesn't really like super graphic gore or confronting images that are harder of like potential abuse or things like that. I'm not sure if I'm covering all the bases, but just if that sounds like something that you might not be able to watch or wanting to watch, yeah. Let's see. I know that this one, for like a lot of people, this deck, the New Era Elements, is very confronting. I know a lot of people don't actually like this deck. It's part of why I do actually, I really like confronting images. I think that also has to do with me being a little bit harder on myself, but I think that confronting images challenge us, and if something makes me uncomfortable in a card, I like that because it means that I'm feeling something. We have like the devil card, which is like, we have like starvation and death, and I believe it's genocide depicted here. And there's, I know, cards that confront addiction in a very visceral light, things like that. So potentially, if that's something that you are able and willing to integrate at all into your practice, even if it's just one deck that sort of does that for you and really pushes that, that might be helpful, because being too soft on yourself and all that, like, you aren't challenging yourself or pushing yourself in any way, you aren't confronting anything. So having just images that innately are confronting can be like an impetus for a start there. I mean, this is like, yeah, the three of air or swords, with the addiction. They aren't all, like, even ones that aren't outright confronting, just the way that they're depicted is kind of like strong, and not strong, but like there's nothing about this that's like something horrible is going on, but yet it's still confronting in a way. So I find that extremely interesting. Yeah, there's a lot in here, like caged animals, things like that, kind of getting you to really question your reality. So there's that one, and then I also had the Tarot de Marseille, Par Polka. And I actually don't find this one, I mean, it's confronting, I guess, in its imagery, but I think it's really funny. So I guess depending on your sense of humor and what you like, it might not be so confronting for you, but it's Marseille style, and there's a lot of, like, I guess, like, gore and organs and violence, but almost in like a funny way. I'm trying to find ones that are like not that, yeah, like you have the lovers here, and for me it's like very humorous deck that sort of gets you like thinking about mortality in a way that's like funny or just relatable, down to earth, washing away sort of the seriousness there. But I mean, I guess like this is, I would consider, I guess, confronting for some people, or potentially confronting. So yeah, think about maybe that as an option or a gateway into maybe pushing yourself to be more confrontational, where if you think you're being too soft and easy on yourself. But I do think that it shouldn't take like a certain type of deck to do that. Just maybe the conscientious mindset and practice of like removing the ego and just being aware of your mood, your space, yourself, self-awareness, and yeah, using the tarot accordingly. So I hope that this was helpful in some way, or at least got you thinking about your own tarot practice, and if you have potentially been a little bit too hard or not hard enough on yourself in your own personal practice, and just, yeah, I think that that's something we could all benefit from, and just continuing to talk about. It is, in my opinion, helpful. Having said this, I think is helpful for me, and I hope it'll be helpful for you. So hope you all are having a great day. Until next time, I will see you guys later.